So, welcome back to part two of the three ways to make money. So, how can we have any of these things in abundance? Well, way one to sort of get more out of what you're trading is through what we call leverage. Now, leverage, it's a fancy term. Basically, it just means leverage basically either you or someone else is willing to risk, willing to bet money or bet an object that you will be able to be successful in whatever it is you're going to do. And there's ways to leverage in all three of the methods of acquiring money. So, how do we leverage money? You leverage money by borrowing more money. This is something that a lot of small funds like to do, and it's even some large funds. They like to say they have a $15 million that they have that they can invest right now. Well, so at $15 million, they can invest in $15 million worth of things. Obviously, at the end of the year, they're going to get a percentage of that. This isn't happening in this day and age, but let's say they can get 10%. So obviously, 10% of 15 million, that's 150,000. Is it? Hold on. So let's say they're gonna invest 150 million. So 150 and then three zeros. If you can hear my mouse clicking, I'm sorry about that. I know it's kind of annoying. So let's say they can get 10% out of that, which isn't common in this day and age, but let's say they can get 10% at the end of the year for that. So we're going to multiply our 150 times our 15%. So times 0.15. I said 10%, didn't I? Let's go 10%. That's just so we'll multiply 150 million times 0.1. So they get 15 million extra dollars. So at the end of the year they have 15 million plus 150 million for 165 million. Pretty simple math to do on that one. I just have my Windows calculator open for that. Now the way they can leverage that money is to borrow additional money. So let's say they have 150 million that they're going to borrow from a bank, and they're going to borrow from that bank at 5%. So they're going to borrow at 5%. At the end of the year, they're going to owe $7.5 million back to that bank, plus the 150 million that they borrowed from the bank. So that's a lot of money. So 150 million plus 7.5 million, 7.5. They're gonna owe 157.5 million. I didn't really need a calculator for that, but I don't know, for some reason I put it in a calculator. But they have $300 million that they get to invest. So with their same strategy at $300 million, and they get 10% for that, obviously that's $30 million. So if they only had $150 million, then they get back $165 million. Now they have $300 million. They get back $330 million. But how much did they have to spend back? So they have $330 million, and now they have to give up the 157.5 that they owe back to the bank. Now they have $172.5 million instead of $165 million. So obviously that is a difference of $7.5 million, because they got basically an extra 5% because they borrowed money. Now that's what happens if you borrow 100% of the money you have. Some of these funds are borrowing 500%, 1,000% of what they actually owe. So they're getting huge profits because they're leveraging. So that's one way that you can leverage money. You can also leverage space. And you leverage space in the exact same way. Instead of borrowing actual money, you can just borrow spaces. You can rent spaces and rent them at a higher price. So if you add something of value to that space that the original landlord didn't, for example, say you're only going to rent out to certain people. It's going to be like a party town. It's going to be a frat house or something, and you have connections with people that want to rent out places like that. Well, that landlord didn't know those places, but he knew you. He can rent out to you for, I don't know, 2 grand a month, but you're renting out to them for 25 grand a month. something like, I mean, not 25 grand, 2.5 grand a month. So that's an extra $500 that you're getting just because you know people. So you're leveraging the things you can do versus what things other people can't do. And that's the same with it, with the financial leveraging for the trading money for money. They're trading what they know how to do, what they know for sure that they have a winning solution, so they're willing to make a bet on that. If it was the other way around and they lost money at the end of the year, so they had $150 million and they brought 150 million more dollars, and they tried to make money with that and they lost money, not only would they owe the 157 million back to the bank, but they wouldn't have that much money to give back to the bank because they've lost money. So with leveraging, yes, your profits can be bigger, but your losses can be bigger too. Same thing with leveraging space. You're spending $2,000 a month to that renter in order to have this space that you rent out on your own. If you can't rent that space out, you're out $2,000 a month. So obviously, there's more risk involved with leveraging. Then, how is it that we can leverage time? Leveraging time is a lot more difficult than leveraging the other things. One way people leverage time is they create a product, and that product will require a lot of initial effort, initial time invested, and then it can be sold either in copies or in tiny pieces over a long period of time after that. What am I talking about? I'm talking about books. I'm talking about music. I'm talking about articles. I'm talking about pretty much any intellectual property that exists. If it can be copied, then you can leverage it, which means you can make it and then you can make several copies of it and sell each of those individual copies for $1, $10, whatever, depending on the actual item it is and how much it costs to reproduce it. Obviously, a CD with that's been that has Michael Jackson's Thriller on it. Obviously, it didn't cost the company very much to make the CD. The cost was in the effort that MJ and his whole team had to put into making that album a thing and actually recording it and doing the marketing for it. That's where the cost was. But it results in this CD that probably costs 10 cents to make, 30 cents to print, 50 cents to package, and then they put it out there and they could sell it for $10, whatever the price of a CD was at the time, which CDs weren't around at the time, but obviously CD is a more colloquial term nowadays. But that's how you leverage time. You invest a large bit of it and then you have a way to copy it. Well, not everybody works in that way. Not everyone has a job that allows them to do that. So, how do we leverage time if, say, you're a hairdresser? So, if you're a hairdresser, obviously, you can only do so much in a day. You can only do so many heads of hair in a day. The only ways you can kind of increase the amount of money you can get for that is, one, if you're in high demand and people are willing to pay, you charge them extra. Or two, you work longer. You're open earlier and you stay open later. Or you're willing to go to different clients that you wouldn't normally see before. So maybe instead of having 8 clients in a day, now you can have 12 clients in a day because you're seeing people that you didn't normally see. Like maybe you only did women before, but now you're open to cutting hair for men or shaving men. Now you have twice the clientele that you normally would have had. Okay, so you've leveraged your time. How? Obviously, there's a limit to that. How can you leverage your time even harder? Well, if you're a hairdresser, you can go from doing hair to teaching other people how to do hair. And so now you go from 8 clients a day, 12 if you want to expand your business, to now you can teach 20, 30 people every single day. You can have classes in each of those clients. You can charge them the same that you charge to do hair. And now you have 15 times the clientele because You're going to be teaching a lot of people. They're going to have different classes every week, and you're going to be able to get more money for your time doing, I'm not going to say the same thing, but a pretty similar thing. It's still within your field of expertise. Now, the tricky part are for the people who work for employers where their time value is already known. So those people, like I said at the beginning of the video, they make $10 an hour, they make $15 an hour. Those people, it's going to be a lot harder for them to really be able to leverage that time because they can't actually make more money by more money by working harder in the amount of time they have. And in some places, they can't make more money by spending more time there. So for those people, and that is a vast majority of us, most of us do not work on our own. Most of us are not self-employed. Most of us aren't writers or musicians. Most of us have to go to work for a living and work for someone else. So how do we do that? How do we juggle that with a home life? Sorry to say, but a lot of that's going to come down to personal sacrifice. You're either going to have to find a way to become self-employed to be able to get that more commission-based style of income where the more you do, the more you get, or you're going to have to work outside of work. You're going to have to put in even more hours outside of work building something. Maybe spend your time working on a book. Maybe spend your time working on something that can be leveraged out, that can be sold in bits and pieces, so that you can basically set the price on your own time. That's really what leveraging is. You get to set the price on your own time. So, like I said, not sure how much this is really going to help people, but a lot of people do ask me questions like this. How do you get wealthy? How do you get rich? How do you navigate money in like this world where we've gone through multiple recessions in the last couple decades? People ask me that kind of stuff all the time, and really, I don't have any easy answers, but hopefully I made you start thinking about what it is that you can be doing in order to help yourself get in a better position so that maybe one day you can take advantage of some of the things that are happening out there, and you can take advantage of some of the things that you already know how to do. So that's it for this video. Remember to rate. I guess you can't rate on YouTube anymore. Remember to like the video, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one. Thank you.